Copyright 2017 to 2021 Alon Yarel, all rights reserved. Attribution-NonCommercial-NoDerivatives 4.0 International, CC by NCND 4.0. This video is intended for physicists and astrophysicists involved in research and development. The riddle of the origin of the universe has intrigued scientists around the world throughout generations of history. All the answers are all right here, in our solar system. In our solar system there are phenomena in which each phenomenon has received its own scientific explanation while ignoring the connection between all the phenomena and finding one phenomenon that causes all the other. First, we will present the phenomena and then we will show you how only one phenomenon causes all those phenomena. The phenomena are: 1. An elliptical rotation of the planets around the Sun instead of a circular rotation as expected from a physical system constructed of gravity and centrifugal force only. 2. The orbit of planets in a disk orbit around the Sun and not rotation of all planets in all directions as expected from a physical system built by gravity and centrifugal force only. 3. The tilt inclination of all the planets in cycles without having the visible physical force which performs the inclination of the planets and stabilizing the tilt cycles. 4. The Sun rotates around the axis at a speed of 25 days for one rotation in the equator of the Sun without having a visible source which rotates the Sun. 5. Here it is really strange, the equator of the Sun rotates faster than the poles while there must be a huge constant external force in order to rotate the equator faster than the poles. 6. The presence of enormous mass of the Sun without a source seems to be the invention of mass. 7. The source heat of the Sun, a wonder that has a wonderful scientific excuse while completely ignoring all the rest of the phenomena. 8. The poles of the Sun, the North Pole and the South Pole with opposite electrical energies, without an electric source generator. 9. Magnetism of the Sun, increased magnetism at the equator of the Sun without source of the magnetic formation. 10. The corona of the Sun is 300 times warmer than the surface of the Sun, which is really unlikely and is not expected from a mass whose surface 5,000 degrees Celsius will heat the corona to a temperature of 1.5 million degrees Celsius without external dynamic active force which will generate the heat. Most of these phenomena are contrary to the laws of physics. All these phenomena show that there is here another force, an invisible phenomenon whose effect projecting and causes all these phenomena. There is an answer for this all. An invisible phenomenon causes all the phenomena. Now we will show you how only one phenomenon causes all the phenomena in our solar system. Listen to this. The story of our solar system begins in another universe. In another universe a star collapsed, star similar to the V404 Cygni star in our universe which collapsed. As a result of the collapse, a space fission was created which opens a universe space. A new universe was created, an infinite empty space. This is how our universe was created. From the intensity of the collapse, a huge time distortion between the universes created. What happens in the other universe during 48 hours of star collapse, in our universe millions of years pass. Because of the time distortion between the universes, the mass of the star in collapse passes through the black hole to our universe in the form of stardust and pass for millions of years. Most of the stars whose mass is between the size of 8 times the size of the Sun and to 20 times the size of the Sun, collapsed into our universe and appeared as stardust in our universe. One of those stars that collapsed, its stardust created the Sun in our solar system. The mass of the star in collapse rotates into the black hole. The mass of stardust is spinning in rotation into our universe, creates two coils made of stardust, in two opposite directions. The gravitational force of the star in collapse passes through an arrow opening of the black hole in two opposite directions and strikes the two spinning stardust metal coil and creates an electric current in the coil. This is how an electricity generator works, a magnet which moves inside a metal coil, generating electricity. This creates an electrical generator. When gravity of the star in collapses, passes through an arrow opening of the black hole in two opposite directions, and strikes the two coils which stardust created, this created an electric voltage generator. Gravity replaces the magnet and spinning metal stardust replace the coil in an electrical voltage generator. As the mass of stardust unites, the stardust continues to flow out of the black hole in two opposite directions. When the mass of stardust united, in one moment the Sun was formed. Gas and fuel burn inside bubbles that form, the coil rotates inside the bubbles. Gases are emitted back through the black hole into the universe where the star is in collapse. The electricity in the coil hits and a new sun born. Stardust flows in two opposite directions, but because of the rotation of the sun around the axis, one coil is placed, and the other coil is disturbed and becomes a metal core which passes through the middle of the coil. This how an electromagnet creates inside the sun. Electromagnetism generated through along the sun rotation has a major role in the solar system. The electromagnet pulls mass and causes the sun to rotate around the axis. This causes the equator of the sun to rotate faster than the poles. Electromagnet inside the sun is the one that creates the pull force of the black hole in another universe. The electromagnet coil is the motor that generates the heat of the sun. The electromagnet inside the sun causes electromagnetic radiation, which causes the corona of the sun to be 300 times warmer than the surface of the sun. The electromagnet and the gravity of the star in a collapse in the other universe stabilize the motion of the planets in a disk orbit. Both these forces cause the disk track accuracy of the planets. The gravitational force of the star in the collapse in another universe causes the planets to tilt, stabilizing the tilt, causing the seasons on Earth in the two opposite directions. Only an external force can stabilize tilt of all planets so accurately in time for so many years. The electromagnet in the sun forms the magnetic polarity of the sun, the North Pole and the South Pole. Inside the bubbles in the sun, rotating metal coils with electrical voltage create magnets. Bubbles with these magnets, when they float, they create increased magnetism on the equator of the sun. Inside the bubbles, nuclear fusion and nuclear fission take place. Gases that are burned in the sun are emitted back through the black hole into the universe where the star is in collapse. The eruptions on the surface of the sun are in fact floating bubbles in which nuclear fusion and nuclear fission have taken place. The elliptical rotation of the planets around the sun. From looking at the scale of the Earth's distances from the sun, we see that the Earth's distance from the sun changes cyclically. In January, the shortest distance of 148 million kilometers from the sun. The Earth's distance from the sun increased for 6 months until July, up to a maximum distance of 154.4 million kilometers. From the end of July, the Earth's distance from the sun decreases for 6 months, until January to a distance of 148 million kilometers. Thus, the distances change in a regular cycle each year. These results really do not make sense. If the sun is just a mass only, then the rotation of the Earth around the sun should have been only circular and not elliptical. According to the Alien Science Association of Astronomy, there is an exit of a black hole in the sun. According to our claim, there is the gravitational force of the star in a collapse in another universe which operates in two opposite directions. So, how is it possible that the Earth's distance in July is even bigger than the distance when the gravity of the star in collapse does not work? In the opposite side, January, there is maximum gravity and the Earth's distance from the sun is the smallest. It is not possible that in January a maximum gravity force will be applied on the Earth while in the opposite side, July, a maximum force will not be applied on the Earth. So, what causes the special elliptical shape called Kepler's first law? There is another force which is not taken into account. Here is the explanation. In the center of the coil in the sun, passes stardust metal core which becomes an electromagnet core. The electromagnet creates a magnet with magnetic force. This force creates the huge electromagnetic force of the black hole in another universe. This electromagnetic force affects all the planets. The magnetic force of the electromagnet works in two directions, but the positive magnetic pole is on the exits of the black hole. This means that the two sides of the black hole exits has a magnetic plus polarity. This means that while the gravitational force of the star in collapse is acting on the planets, in two opposite directions, there is a magnetic force which acts on the magnetic poles of the planets. When there is summer at the north pole of the Earth, the magnetic side plus of the Earth is tilted towards the exit of the black hole that has a magnetic plus and pushes the Earth away from the sun. Two magnets with same poles plus magnets resist each other. And when there is winter in the north pole of the Earth, the magnetic side minus of the south Earth is tilted towards the exit of the black hole that has a magnetic plus force and that pulls the Earth to the sun. Two magnets with plus and minus poles attract each other. We're talking about Kepler's first law, the elliptical motion of all planets around the Sun. This is why at the end of January, when the gravity of the star in collapse acts and pulls the northern part of the Earth's moving away from the Sun. This is why at the end of July, when the gravity of the star in collapse acts and pulls the southern part of the Earth's moving towards the Sun. Thus, the two electromagnets and the gravity force of the star in collapse generate an elliptical rotation of the Earth. This explanation gives a perfect answer to Kepler's first law for the orbit of the planets around the Sun. In fact, the scheme of the Earth's distance from the Sun proves the invention of magnetic force that it once pulls and once pushes. The phenomenon of fiery looping rain on the Sun, which is suspected as the exit of the black hole, is explained by scientists as a magnetic eruption. The explanation is true, but the origin of magnetism and how it is formed is different from the opinion of scientists. See, there is combustion of gases and not just fusion. See energy renewal, which can only come from an external source. Also see that the beginning of fiery looping rain on the Sun starts from above, which is not really a ground eruption. So also see that there is one side of the black hole exits which is more dominant than the other, which means there is an electromagnetic force which pulls most of the mass to one direction. In conclusion, many explanations for different phenomena within one solar system cannot be used as a substitute for one simple explanation which explains how one phenomenon causes all the phenomena within one solar system.